You ever have one of those moments where you open your banking app even though you already know exactly what you're about to see? Like, you're standing in line somewhere, maybe waiting for coffee, maybe sitting on your couch late at night with the lights off, phone glowing in the dark. You tap the app. It loads just slow enough to build a little dread. And then there it is. That number. Lower than you hoped. Again. And the frustrating part is you're not even doing anything wild. You're not blowing money on yachts or luxury watches or whatever people imagine when they hear "bad with money." You're just living. Rent comes out. Groceries cost more than they used to. Gas jumps for no reason. A subscription you forgot you had quietly renews. Then your car decides it needs something. Or your dog. Or your body. Or life just throws something random at you because that's what life does. So you tell yourself, okay, next month will be better. You always say that. And you believe it. Because it feels logical. You're trying. You're working. You're not lazy. Then next month comes. And somehow, it's the same story. You're earning money, but it never really feels like you're keeping money. It's like trying to carry water in your hands. No matter how careful you are, it keeps slipping through your fingers. I remember being stuck in that exact loop for way longer than I want to admit. Feeling like I was doing all the right things on paper but nothing was actually changing. And honestly, that's probably why I ended up spending way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why some people seem to move through life with this quiet sense of stability while others, sometimes earning the same amount, sometimes even more, feel constantly on edge about their bank account. I'm Nick, and this wasn't some planned career path. It was more like a side effect of too many late-night money spirals and that nagging feeling of, why does this feel so hard when I'm trying so much? What finally broke that loop for me wasn't a raise. It wasn't a side hustle. It wasn't some genius investing strategy or spreadsheet that magically fixed everything. It was one incredibly boring, almost embarrassing rule involving just $1,000. And I know how that sounds. $1,000 doesn't sound impressive. It's not a life-changing amount. It's not even 5 figures. For some people, it's a single paycheck. For others, it feels like climbing a mountain barefoot. But the rule itself, the way I started treating that first $1,000, completely changed how I think about money. Not overnight. Not dramatically. But fundamentally. And if you've ever felt like you're doing everything you're supposed to do and still somehow treading water, if you've ever wondered why financial advice sounds so logical but feels so hard to actually live out, I want to walk you through this slowly. No hype. No, just hustle harder nonsense. Just a real conversation. Because this isn't really about $1,000. It's about what finally clicked. Here's the thing no one really explains: the first $1,000 in savings feels emotionally heavier than almost any other amount of money you'll ever save. Before you have it, $1,000 represents safety. Relief. Breathing room. It feels like the thing standing between you and chaos. You imagine it solving problems. Absorbing stress. Giving you options. When you don't have it, every unexpected expense feels like a threat. Not an inconvenience. A threat. Your tire pressure light comes on and your stomach tightens. Your phone glitches and you immediately think, please don't die right now. You're not scared of the expense itself. You're scared of what it represents: fragility. For a long time, I thought I was bad with money. Like fundamentally flawed. But what I eventually realized is that I wasn't reckless. I was just operating with zero margin. Every dollar I earned already had a job. There was no buffer. No space. No room for error. So when people would casually say things like, "You just need an emergency fund," my brain translated that into, "You need to be more responsible. You need to be more disciplined. You need to fix yourself." Which was overwhelming. And honestly, kind of discouraging. What no one explained is that the emotional impact of the first $1,000 has almost nothing to do with what it can buy. It changes your life not because it pays for everything, but because it changes how your brain behaves. When I finally had $1,000 sitting there, just sitting there, not invested, not optimized, not doing anything impressive, something weird happened. I stopped checking my bank account 10 times a day. Not completely, because I'm human, but the edge came off. The background noise quieted down. And that's when it hit me, the biggest problem wasn't income or discipline. It was constant low-grade financial panic. And you cannot build a future from a place of panic. So here's the rule. This is the entire thing. No dramatic build-up. Once I hit $1,000 in savings, I treated it as untouchable, except for real emergencies. And every single time it dipped below $1,000, rebuilding it became my top financial priority. Before investing. Before extra spending. Before anything else. If it dropped to $700, my only job was to get it back to $1,000. If it dropped to $400, same thing. No negotiating with myself. No, "I'll fix it later." No pretending it didn't matter. At first, it felt restrictive. Almost childish. Like I was grounding myself from my own money. But that restriction was the point. Before this rule, savings was optional. Abstract. Something I'd work on when things settled down. After the rule, savings became a floor. A baseline. A non-negotiable. And here's the sneaky part. Because the number was small enough to feel achievable, I actually followed it. If I had told myself I needed $10,000 before doing anything else, I would have shut down mentally. That would have felt impossible. But $1,000? That felt doable. Even if it took time. Rules beat motivation. Every time. Motivation fades. Rules remove the decision. Now this is where things got uncomfortable, because once I had the rule, I started noticing how creative I was at trying to break it. Oh, this is kind of an emergency. I'll just borrow from myself. I'll replace it next paycheck, it's fine. You know the script. So I had to define what a real emergency actually was. Not emotionally. Practically. A real emergency was something that threatened my ability to work, live safely, or meet basic needs. Car repair so I could get to work. Emergency. Medical expense. Emergency. Rent shortfall. Emergency. Concert tickets because I needed the experience? Absolutely not. A sale that was too good to pass up? Nope. Covering overspending because I didn't feel like adjusting my lifestyle? Also no. This wasn't about discipline. It was about honesty. And honesty is uncomfortable, because it forces you to see how often you use money to smooth over discomfort instead of actually addressing the underlying issue. But once those definitions were clear, something shifted. The rule stopped feeling restrictive and started feeling protective. And then something happened that I didn't expect at all. That $1,000 gave me confidence. Not loud confidence. Quiet confidence. I negotiated differently. I waited longer before buying things. I wasn't as desperate for my paycheck to hit. And desperation is expensive. When you're desperate, you rush decisions. You take bad deals. You prioritize relief over outcomes. Having a buffer gave me pause. And that pause changed everything. I could pause before swiping. Pause before saying yes. Pause before panicking. It's weird, but having a little money made me feel richer than earning more money ever had. And here's the uncomfortable truth: most people actually reach $1,000 at some point. They just don't keep it. They hit the number, feel relief, and then release the pressure. They celebrate. They relax. And slowly, the money leaks back out. Not because they're irresponsible, but because there's no rule protecting it. I did this for years. Save, dip. Save, dip. Always hovering near zero. The difference wasn't income. It was identity. Once I decided, I'm someone who does not go below $1,000 unless life forces me, my behavior started to align. Not perfectly, but consistently. And the wild part is how quietly this rule scales. Once $1,000 became normal, it stopped feeling special. And without forcing it, my brain started treating $2,000 the same way. Then $5,000. Not because I set new rules, but because the pattern was already there. Protect the floor. Rebuild immediately. Don't negotiate. This rule didn't just change my bank account. It changed how I felt about myself. I stopped seeing myself as bad with money. I stopped carrying that quiet shame. I stopped feeling like adulthood was something I was failing at. And that mattered more than the dollars. Because once shame leaves the equation, progress speeds up. So if you take nothing else from this, take this: financial stability doesn't start with optimization. It starts with protection. Protecting yourself from panic. Protecting your future decisions. Protecting a small pocket of peace. The $1,000 rule didn't make me rich. It didn't solve everything. But it gave me control. Control over my reactions. Control over my stress. Control over the story I told myself about money. And once you have that, growth stops feeling impossible. So if you're watching this feeling behind, frustrated, or tired of starting over, hear this clearly: you are not broken. You are not bad with money. You might just be missing a floor. Build that first. Protect it fiercely. And let everything else grow from there. Not fast. Not perfectly. But steadily. And honestly, that's how real change happens.